So now I'm live and going out to everybody on the show that's watching the show at this point. I see Chris is there. I see Ken is there. I see Otis is there. And we can go to this list right here and we can see the whole list. So I know that Rose is there and Tim is there and who else? Dan and Neil. And if you're watching, Cassidy's sitting right next to me, standing right next to me. She and Rose are going to be on the show in a little bit. There's Cassidy. And Kenny's here from Illinois. He's checking in. I talked to Kenny by phone yesterday. Kenny is at Greenville. Is it Greenville University, Kenny? Did I have that right? In Illinois. And Cassidy is from Fairhope Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then her teacher, Miss Rose, is at Fairhope Intermediate School, and they will be my guests today in just a few minutes. How are we doing on time? We have 1 minute there, and this is a countdown timer to showtime. And that's this, is that clock up there too?
Yeah.
Yes. So we know, so when I'm sitting over there by myself, I know how much time do I have before showtime. But the show never starts on time.
Oh, Kenny says you got it right.
I did got it right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Cassidy. Yeah. And Eric here. Hey, Eric. Eric, I enjoyed your video the other day. Or actually, it wasn't a video. It was your appearance on Dan's show last week. That was really cool. It was neat to see all the different ways you're using X keys. Good stuff. All right, and then Troy, the New Jersey pool player, says, greetings from Asbury Park. FYI, under my subscription tab on YouTube Eastern Shore Broadcasting. And we have a surprise guest. Come on in, you're fine. Dr. Broughton, who is the principal at Fairhope Intermediate School, has just popped in. So, if you can't be here on time, just show up whenever you can.
Yes, I'm on time.
All right, so we're going to rearrange. Folks, we're going to rearrange the studio just a second so that we can get Dr. Broughton on the set. Would that be okay?
It's just, but yes, that's fine. Oh, yeah, I guess, but I'm not prepared. I'm just learning.
Do you mind being seen by an international audience?
Oh, heavens, no.
Okay.
But
All
I
right.
don't have my doctorate. It's only this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have my specialist.
I elevated you
About
quite
15
fast.
hours away.
Okay.
And I said, that's it.
I'm going to put you on a stool,
Okay.
and I'm going to let you sit slightly behind us,
Okay.
which will give you a little protection.
I'll be taller.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to put you over here next to Ms. Wiles.
Okay.
You're fine. This is your chair.
Okay, good.
That chair was mine. And we're going to put you.
And I'm not going to move my chair because I know you got it just in the right.
Let's see if that's going to be right.
Okay. That's
Cassie, your
perfect.
head space is going to be perfect. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Look.
I think I'm going to use. Would it be too informal to use first names only?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's fine.
good.
You okay?
That's really good with me.
Okay. So we'll do that. We'll do that. And as you guys can hear, we're just working out a few of the details, getting ready for the show.
I put lips
So,
on before I came in. I'm a little nervous.
what's that?
I put lips on before I came in.
Oh, I have makeup in the bathroom if anybody needs to touch up. Yeah, I do that on occasion.
My grandma used to be down the way you're showing.
Okay, you guys look terrific. Let's see. Let's go ahead and put the comments up. So,
Did you remember everything?
This is more advanced.
It's
Yeah.
Carol, these are the comments from folks that are watching all over the world. Kenny is in Illinois. Troy is in New Jersey. Eric, I think, is in Florida. And then Chris and some others will pop up at different times. Chris is in New Zealand, where it's, Chris, what is it, 5 o'clock in the morning down there? Otis is in Texas. Ken is in California. Dan is in Michigan. And these are folks that regularly watch the show. The show is about live streaming. It's called Streaming Idiots because sooner or later when you're live streaming, everybody feels like an idiot. Rose, is that fact?
Very accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never mastered, only practice.
Striving.
And Rich Ignacio, who is my 2018 live streamer of the year. Rich is, is it Wednesday already? Well, Wednesday is the normal show day, but we did it today because this is the day that worked for, at least it worked for Rose. But Rich, in addition to his regular day job, goes around the country live streaming jet ski races on the weekends.
Oh, how cool is that?
So he'll be in Pensacola Beach, or he'll be in Laguna Beach, or he'll be on Lake Michigan, or wherever.
So cool.
Daniel, have I got it right? Let's see. Oh, Chris is complaining because it's 7:02 in the morning and we're still in pre-show. And Tim is in Florida, just in Northwest Florida, and I'm not sure where Daniel is, and Daniel will have to help me with the rest of his bio. And what happens is the audience will grow and grow. Actually, today we're a day early
So it's awesome.
than normal, so people are like, oh, the show's on today? Oh, golly. So we may not have quite the audience that we normally have, but it's a good group. You can't see it, but out to the left right here is a little symbol that tells whether their comment is coming from Facebook or coming from YouTube.
Oh, how about that?
And so because we're live streaming 3 different places right now. One is to my Eastern Shore Broadcasting Streaming Idiots YouTube page, and then there's a Facebook group called Streaming Idiots and a Facebook page called Eastern Shore Broadcasting. Fairhope Intermediate School has a page, so people can like your page anytime they want to, but to join a group, they have to have the group's permission. For example, we set up what's called a secret group when we teach an online class, and we put all the materials for the class in that secret group so people can go and get access to it. We record all our classes and post them there so that people can go back and watch them if they missed them. And then it's a great we teach a class generally Tuesday nights for 6 weeks, and then people can have discussion back and forth throughout the week kind of in the privacy of this secret group on Facebook. So it's really fun to kind of leverage a lot of these social media tools to our benefit. Anyway. Daniel's in Wisconsin. Tommy Willis is right up the road in Tallahassee, Alabama, between Montgomery and Auburn. And Chris is still waiting for the call from CNN. And Otis says, Tom, are you talking to yourself? Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's got me nailed. Okay, well, let's get this show off. Oh, and Jerome is Life Media Pro. So welcome, Jerome. Jerome and Otis are brothers. I met them 2 or 3 years ago in Las Vegas? You guys remember? I think it was 2. All right. Chris says that we have to get started. He's got an appointment. Chris is in New Zealand where it's 7 o'clock in the morning. So, okay.
Tell him sorry about the cricket.
I read something about that. All right, let's see. How can we make this happen? I think what we're going to do is we're going to take
Little-legged creatures.
we're going to take this shot. No, that's not the shot I wanted. Let's take this shot right here. That's the studio shot, and I'm going to join that shot. And I'm going to mute this mic. Turn on that mic. And we'll see if we can't make this happen.
Kick my purse right back. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. All right. So everybody gets to see what the studio looks like. And we'll get the show started. So here we go. There we go. All right. Welcome. This is Streaming Idiots. I'm Tom Sinclair. I'm so glad that you've joined us this afternoon. We're a day early. Normally we're Wednesday afternoons at 3 o'clock Eastern, but we have special guests here in the studio today. And, you know, you got to do what you got to do when the guests show up a day early. I mean, what else are we going to do? So we said, let's just have a live stream. I'm delighted to have folks with me from Fairhope Intermediate School and Fairhope Middle School now to come and talk about live streaming in a school environment today. Remember that Streaming Idiots is normally Wednesdays at 3 o'clock Eastern at streamingidiots.com. Streaming Idiots, as you may recall, is a production of my company, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, which sells all sorts of live streaming gear. So if we can help you with live streaming gear, or if just advice about buying live streaming gear, we're on the internet at easternshorebroadcasting.com. So this is your list, by the way.
Oh.
So you can go ahead and do that.
Main shot. Let's see what is.
Yeah, we're in kind of a learning environment today, bottom left corner. Yeah, there you go. And then hit the pink button.
The pink button.
Yeah,
is-
top left.
Oh,
Top right, there you go. That'll put the comments back up there.
okay.
So we're doing just a little bit. Cassidy is running the show. Cassidy, if you would hit the side-by-side button in the bottom left-hand corner, that'll bring us all in.
Side by side.
There we go. All right, very good. And to my right, and excuse me, the lower third is not correct. To my right is Carol. Carol is the principal at Fairhope Intermediate School. Thank you so much for joining us today. She didn't know she was going to be on a show. She just thought she was going to be watching.
Yes, I'm usually behind the curtain. I'm never in front.
But a principal can wing it under any circumstance and make it work.
That's not a confidence, Tom. I'm not quite sure.
And to my immediate left is Rose. Rose is a teacher at Fairhope Intermediate School, in addition to other schools, teaches gifted education. And Cassidy, right behind me, is one of the students in the gifted education program. And part of the gifted education program charge was to do live video of the morning announcements. Now, this was Carol's brainchild from 6-7 years
ago, we've been trying to do this. And then we found you, which helped us tremendously, and Rose, and my kids who had the courage to try.
They did.
They
did a pretty darn good job, too.
Yeah.
We built a neat little studio for them, and maybe one day we can do a show from the we can do
that
this
would be
show
fun.
from your studio.
I would love it.
That would be fun. We could do that. We were kind of limited. It was like, okay, you can come build a studio anywhere you want to, but you only have a choice of these 2 rooms. And both of them were teeny little book storage rooms. So we took both of them, and we used one as a control room and one as a studio room. And unfortunately, there was a concrete block wall in between them, so we had to bore through the wall in order to pass cables back and forth. In some ways, that was a kind of a shortcoming. In other ways, it turned out to be really, really good, because what it meant was Cassidy and her gang in the control room could be as loud as they needed to direct cameras and graphics and different functions behind the scenes, while on the other side of this virtually soundproof wall, the folks in the studio couldn't hear any of that. They were able to take off on whatever their announcement was for the day. Now, Cassidy, early on, remember, we didn't have the teleprompter.
Yeah.
And so what did you guys have to do?
We had to memorize the whole script and try not to forget the lines when we were reciting it.
And so you had one script, and you could just use that same script every day for the whole week, right?
Well, there was different news each day.
So you had to write a different script and memorize it every day? But you had like hours and hours to memorize all this, didn't you?
No, we only had like 45 minutes.
Between 7:15 and then we did the announcements every morning at 7:50. So what was that, 35,
Yeah, 35
40
minutes.
minutes? Yeah.
So you guys would write a script, memorize it, and then deliver it live to an international audience.
Yes, that could be international, but most people just were from at the school.
Do you know who was watching?
I heard many teachers didn't really do it because they couldn't figure it out. But then some parents did it.
But then we figured out some teachers weren't sure about putting their own personal Facebook up in front of their classes.
Because we were streaming through Facebook.
So we ended up doing, they created an account on Facebook purely for school stuff. So
Right.
they called it like Baldwin and then the name of the class teacher, and they kept that entirely basically shut down. So it was all just the school information, the school feed, what we did for the Pirate podcast, which is what we called the morning announcements. Right. And then the teachers felt much more comfortable that something wouldn't just sort of pop up. They were worried about something political or social or something coming up on, that they didn't want the kids to see.
That was not the best solution.
We
need to do better.
We're still looking. It's a leap of faith when you do something like this.
Yes.
And it does take a lot of courage and a lot of thinking. And at the same time, all of these breaches in security were being mentioned. So there was a whole underground current with, oh my, well,
Right.
I can't do this because of what might happen. And whenever you're dealing with children, it's a very confidential matter. And some
Yes.
parents don't mind, other parents really mind. So I think each day we're learning more, and we're just so grateful you've been a part of this.
Right.
Because there's so much we don't know. And part of our goal for this was the magic that comes from this screening, this live streaming process, because it builds confidence in the kids. They do have constructive struggle. That's a fun little term we use because, instead of us just saying, push this button, they kind of have to reflect and think. And so it helps develop their logic and reasoning and confidence
There we go.
all at the same time. So it's been a good thing. It's a work in progress. We're still getting better.
It's always a work in progress. I mean, think about everything that goes on in your school. Is everything achieved the goals that you've set for it, or is it still a work in progress?
Every day's a new day.
Yeah.
Yes, every day's a new day.
Yeah. The studio was Carol's brainchild, and she took her PE teacher 6 or 7 years ago and tasked him with finding out what it would cost to build a studio in the school. And I think when the price hit $20,000 or $30,000,
Closer to 30, yeah.
That was when the idea kind of got put on the back shelf. And how did it get back on the front burner again?
We had a greater population of interest, so we sowed seeds all along the way. We got people with natural talents and interest, and we saved our pennies, and we got it done. And we got it done, yeah. But most of the genius goes to you and John Gray and all the parents that have helped us. And the kids, I come back to the kids, they've got to have a certain amount of confidence to even try this.
Right.
So I love it. I love everything about it.
It was amazing. Carol allowed me as a non-teacher to pop in on that class quite a bit and to meet the kids initially and to begin to kind of assess their levels of confidence as well as their levels of talent. Now, I will say that the kids took to this stuff like ducks to water.
Absolutely.
The teachers were a little slower coming on.
We're a lot
That
slower.
would this might have been named for me, Streaming for Idiots. That might be me.
But that's the way we all feel. But it was really fun in the I guess it was about 3 months to watch these kids really grow and learn. There was one youngster in particular that really his leadership abilities just busted out. Maybe they were there and everybody else saw them, but I saw somebody that was a little uncertain coming in, and by the 3rd month he was directing the show, and he had his director's script out, and he was calling the shots, and he was keeping people in line, not in a way that was burdensome to them, but really lifting them up at the same time. And I could not have been more impressed. This young lady here, Cassidy, would get in front of the camera and just charm your socks off. It was really, really fun to watch, and to see you grow in confidence and skill with all this
I
was
remember
exciting.
that.
And then now we
love
lose you
that
because you
show.
go on to middle school.
Yeah.
That's right.
But you have the middle school broadcast club that you might want to be a
Yeah.
part of. I don't know anybody in the middle school, but maybe I can make some friends up that way. So, Rose, when you got the word that you were going to be associated with this new project, I mean, what was your impression?
Well, I love Miss Broughton, and so generally when she asks me to do something, I say absolutely. But I did this with a little bit of trepidation because I'd done some video editing, and Miss Broughton said, "Oh, this will be just like that." And then when I went and I looked at the studio, I was like, "Oops, this is an iMovie. I don't know what this is." So having you there made a huge difference. But then as soon as we had the kids on board, that's when I felt like this was so valuable, because the energy that they brought, they got so excited, and immediately they started talking about all these different things that they could do and how they could run it. They started taking ownership of it. You know, they developed a logo and they wanted it to look like this, and it needed to, you know, no, we need this background, and we're going to go out and take pictures, and we want it to be, you know, our own. And then I felt like, however hard it is, it doesn't matter because it's so valuable. And they got so much out of it and grew so much. It was an entirely different forum for them to explore their gifts, you know, their talents. It was great.
It was fascinating to watch some of them gravitate to the on-air portion, the talent portion,
Right.
and others to gravitate to the technical side of it.
Yeah.
And others, I'm not going to name names, but there was one young lady in the class that actually designed and drew out the logo. If you grab that shirt over to the left,
Oh, yes.
we can show it off. She made a logo for the class, and what that says is the Pirate Podcast, and they're the Fairhope Pirates is the mascot for Fairhope Schools. And so she made this really cool logo to go for the class, which was the Pirate Podcast. Now, I don't know if that'll continue from year to year, or whether every class will name themselves differently, but it was just really cool. And I think she drew it and she posted it right on the studio door.
That's what's so nice is I think she was playing around with the idea in class and got something drawn up, and I said, "Oh, that's really nice, you know, maybe we can scan it in and use it as our logo." And she went off down to the library, and Miss Lucas, our librarian, is just so sweet and supportive, and she told Miss Lucas that she needed to laminate this so she could put it up on the door. And you know, it all got done, and that's the kind of, you know, well, that's our school. First of all, everyone, there's never a no, we're not doing that. It's always a sure, we'll figure that out. And you know, everyone supports everybody else. And you know, I love the fact that when the kids showed initiative and, you know, thought, I'm going to go ahead and do this, everyone gets behind it and it's encouraged. And it was such a great opportunity doing this. It was wonderful.
Well, it was very refreshing for me to walk into that kind of atmosphere, because when I was in high school, this was back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, that was not the attitude. It was, you know, get in a class, learn what you're supposed to learn, and get out of my way. And so this was really refreshing and very inspiring, frankly. I can't wait to get back involved, if you'll allow me, in the fall.
Absolutely. We cannot wait. I mean, the whole concept is full of potential. I can barely wait. I see us going outside and live streaming. I see us interviewing our guests, and we have some great guests that come along. All the programs we do. I just think it's going to be so fun. Rose, can we do that?
And I'll just nod and go, Hey, the problem is that we've created this team, and that's one thing with being a sixth grade teacher in a 4, 5, 6 school is you get to know these guys and they're so wonderful, and then they go off up to the middle school, and my heart's breaking because I'm going to miss them so much. But we've got some kids picked out for next year, and I'm so excited. And they've had the huge advantage of having seen it, and they're not going into it blind. They're like, oh, yeah, wow, I want to be there. I want to do that, because these guys sort of turned up, blinking into the light. And, why are we here? And I was like, oh, good.
Yeah.
You don't know why you're here, but, I'm going to need you here at 7:15 every day. Thanks so much.
Well, Cassidy, what did you expect? What were you thinking this might be?
I mean, I knew that it would be like broadcasted, but I didn't expect the behind the scenes to be so technical.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I went in the spotlight more, since I didn't know if
the spotlight was safer.
Yeah, you still had to like work and
Interesting.
memorize stuff, but
Right. And so it was a little bit more behind the scenes than you might have anticipated. Kind of like all this,
yeah.
because everything here practically is behind the scenes. This is I call this sort of an experimental studio, because this is where we tested a lot of the things that we put into your studio to say, is this really going to work in that environment? Can we put things on a dolly? If we put them on a dolly, we have to put sandbags on the bottom of them so we don't knock them over. And we're going to find sandbags that have kind of the caution emblem built into them so that they attract some attention, and try to think through as many of those kinds of things in advance so that we could just avoid those problems. Those problems would never occur, at least in theory. One of the charges that I was given as Carol and her team brought this concept to me was that we've got these rooms in the media center. It's what we used to call a library, in the media center. But we also want to do a live stream from other places, like the gymnasium, which is like 3.5 miles down the hallway on the other end of the school. And so we had to work with the Board of Education's IT department to get an internet drop put into the, not actually, it wasn't an internet drop, it was just a local area network drop into the gymnasium so that we could connect the camera. We're using the PTZ Optics camera. In their case, I believe we've got the 20X. I know you guys don't remember any of these details. But the 20X, in addition to being able to output video over SDI and HDMI, it can also output video over IP, which is your Cat5, Cat6 cable. And it can be powered over that same cable. So we were able to basically wheel that camera down the hall, plug it into the into the Ethernet jack in the cafeteria, plug in a little power supply right there, plug in 100 foot of Cat5, and then roll that camera anywhere in the gym we wanted to. That put the camera on the network, and then using vMix back, remember 3.5 miles back the other direction in the studio, we could pick up that camera's video off the network and bring it into the live stream. And I think the very first thing we live streamed was the Black History Month celebration.
Yes, it was.
That was on February 28th. And we also live streamed the closing ceremonies for school, the awards and all that from the gymnasium. So there really was a lot more to it than just sort of we're going to do school announcements in the morning. That's how they teased me into this thing. And now I understand we're going to do some international. No, we haven't gotten that far yet. But once you see one thing, you can see 3 other things from that.
Yes.
And once you see those 3 other things, then each one of those allows 3 other things. And before you know it, you have 1,200 ideas that you can't possibly do, but you do some of them, and you have a lot of fun, and you develop some new talents, and you're able to broaden your reach.
Yes. Tell your story.
Yes.
What is your story? And when we look at the kids, and we try to figure out where are we going to lead the kids? And so the teachers came up with this 3 little letter acronym, and it's, we want to inspire the kids, we want them to create, and then they become the leaders. And we have expanded our community, so we're really achieving those things all in this one studio. And to me, it's just real exciting. Full of potential. Tom, take your vitamins.
That's right. Well, and that's going to change in a year.
Yes. Oh, but then in a year we have the bitty babies joining the 6th graders. So our population will grow.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some possibilities there for this.
I do too.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think problem solving is, and just exposing these kids to different experiences is just tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous.
3 weeks ago in this studio, I never give up the host chair. I have never given up the host chair. This is actually the world's longest continuous running live streaming show about live streaming. Of course, that's a very small niche, but continuously we've been going since July 2012. But I gave up the chair 3 weeks ago to a rising fourth grader, my grandson Parker Sinclair.
So cool.
And he and I wrote the script. It was a very long script, and so he didn't memorize it, but we put it right up there in the preview monitor in the top left-hand corner. And I sat behind the desk and I advanced it one page at a time for him.
Wonderful.
And he pulled off the whole show, and he said, "Pop," that's his name for me, Pop. I figured it was Pop would be really easy. Every kid likes to say Pop, and they even wrote a book about me, so you can hop on Pop. But he said, "Pop, I want to tell some riddles."
Mm-hmm.
So periodically throughout the show, we would stop and take a riddle break and tell riddles. And this little guy, he's 9 years old, he pulled it off like no problem.
Wow.
You know, I can handle this. I can handle all the lights. I can handle all the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
I can read the script. I can make eye contact with the camera while I'm reading the script. I got this. And I'm thinking, you know, holy cow, yeah. We can knock it down from 6th grade to 5th grade to 4th grade
right.
to 3rd grade. Maybe not everything, but if the effect is the same effect that I watched with Cassidy and I watched with the other kids that went through that they had a totally new thing thrown at them that they got to learn, and they were successful. They weren't graded. I mean, we didn't get an A or a B, but we had a feeling that we were successful, and we moved forward with that, and we were able to develop confidence in ourselves, not only in this, but the better knowledge we got was I can take things that I don't know a lot about
Right.
and
That
be
growth
successful with
mindset.
them.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And once you learn that, the whole world opens up.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
anytime that we can give our kids an opportunity to have an experience that is real and relevant, that's when that learning's really authentic and that sticks. And we spoke a lot about none of us really knew what we were doing at the beginning, and so every step we made was moving in the right direction, and sometimes it felt like we went backwards, but then we regrouped, and we had our little sessions every so often. We said, what are our glows and what are our grows? And we said, what went really well today and what didn't? And it was funny because what could have turned into a real bashing? You didn't do this, you didn't do that.
Right.
It was light. We laughed about it. When something went wrong, it was funny. You know, we tended to just be like, oh, wah, wah, you know, and there was no pressure because, like you say, we were all in the same boat. We were all figuring it out and moving forward, and sometimes, you know, falling down, and we all helped each other up and figured it out. It was an incredibly authentic experience because in real life, there's no textbook to figure everything out. You know, you just sort of muddle your way through. It's like starting a new job or your first year teaching, and you think, what am I doing? I don't know. I thought I knew and I don't know, you know. And I felt like that for the kids was such a valuable experience to have at 12 years old, when suddenly they could be like, oh, it's okay not to know, but if you have a good attitude and you open your ears and open your mind, you can figure it out. And I felt like that was so valuable. It was great.
And they start listening to each other.
Oh,
You have an idea. Hey, that might work. Let's do it. Let's try it. So that whole collaboration and the energy and the discussions and just listening to them, and a lot of times their body language spoke louder than their words because they were so excited.
For those of you that are just joining us, Carol and Rose and Cassidy participated in the the Eastern Shore Broadcasting's building of a new studio in Carroll's school, Fairhope Intermediate School, here in Fairhope, Alabama. And we're talking about it. We had 11. Were there 11 of us? 11 of you guys?
11 beautiful, beautiful children, yes.
11 sixth graders who came into a studio every morning at a god-awful hour,
7:15.
whatever it was, 7:15, and wrote scripts for their morning announcements, memorized the scripts, and then figured out all the behind the scenes of their workflow. And I think of the 11, at least 7 or 8 were actively participating in something the whole time. There were some folks that were getting ready for the next day's activities, but most everybody was involved. And as we designed the studio, we tried to take some of the tasks that might be done by a technical director who was very, very skilled in that operation. We would break it up into 3 or 4 slices and then assign each student a slice so that it was a little easier to master those tasks and also to involve as many people as possible in the process. There's nothing worse than standing in line for your turn to do something. So we wanted to reduce that as much as we possibly could. And what we were alluding to a little while ago is that Fairhope Intermediate School, not this coming fall, but the fall a year from now, will expand from fourth, fifth, and sixth grade to pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade.
That's right.
Holy cow!
I know. That's a big birthday party. That's over 900 kids. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
He says with a smile on his face.
That's right. It's kind of like being a parent, but oh my goodness. All right. So Cassidy,
Yes.
as you move forward, is there anything in particular you can pick out of what we learned back in the spring that you either you really liked or you'd really liked and you'd really like to do again?
Being on the broadcast and like knowing that my parents had seen it was nice. And then like there were like messages that were kind of hidden in there, like you have to like listen to people and listen to their ideas before judging. But yeah, the whole like broadcasting thing was like really cool in itself.
What was it like to walk down the halls?
People did like look at me and I knew they knew who I was, but they didn't really say anything about it. They just kind of looked and they're like, "Oh, that's her."
That's
because we kept the
that girl.
paparazzi away.
That's
right.
Yeah. Well, and part of what Rose and her partner Frances did was to talk with the kids about the effect of being on screen, and what it was going to do in your peer group and with groups below you. And so there were, the learning that took place at just how many different levels. Holy cow!
And let's talk for a second about those life skills that went on in that studio. Frances Campbell was Rose's partner. She is wonderfully gifted in teaching children how to speak in front of an audience.
Yes.
So that life skill is going on as well. So it was a real good synergy between the two of you. But I chose you, Rose, because I knew you could do it. You are very gifted.
I'm just enthusiastic. Impossibly.
What was that commercial? We'll give it to Mikey. Mikey will eat
Mikey
anything. Yeah. Well, I sure do appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy summer schedules to come be with us today.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Cassidy's done a good job back here keeping us on track with everything. If there's anybody, I've tried to kind of keep an eye on the questions as we went through, but as we wind up here, if you've got a question, for Carol, the principal, or for Rose, the teacher, or for Cassidy, one of the students. We'd love to have it now. I see Ken Benedict out in California says, are there plans to have younger students as guests? And we really didn't get that far this past spring. We were just trying to get the basics down.
I think especially as we get to be a pre-K through 6 school, I think it's going to become even more useful having the announcements being visual as well as something that they listen to, because I think for our young kids, if it's just a noise in the background, if it's a traditional announcement, it's one of those things that it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. If they see a child up there, one of their peers, someone they know, someone who they're in PE with or who's in their class, that's really powerful, because that's so real to the kids, especially if it's, praising, he read a book and he wanted to tell us all about it. You can light some fires there. Well, maybe if I read a book, I can be on the announcements, and I think that's really powerful with kids when they see their peers up there being celebrated. I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I think that whole concept going from the lower to the higher, like we had a group of high school students. I saw the high school has live streaming as well. So my kids will have that advantage. But we've also had the high school students come down and talk to our kids and say, these are some of the opportunities you'll have when you get to the high school. This is what you need to do. And what we find a lot of times with school transitions, the kids become terrified with, oh my gosh, I'm going to middle school. They tell me there's an elevator and I have to buy a ticket. Well, none of that is true. But they fall for all of that. And so I think we could have better connectivity between all of those grade levels and say, look, I know you're going to 7th grade now, but it's really going to be okay. This is what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So just bringing that comfort level in, I think will help too. Definitely. So older to younger.
Too cool.
Too cool.
All right. Well, we're not being overwhelmed with questions, and that's probably just as good a thing.
There were some earlier on.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
I saw one was about the biggest struggle.
Yeah.
What was the biggest struggle, do you think?
Being in the spotlight and doing it, and then having to walk back to class and see what my whole class, knowing they just saw me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get comments?
Well, for my friends, yeah.
Okay.
They yeah.
And I felt like that was something that it was not just with the kids, but with us too. It was that element of risk taking, the fact that we were doing something brand new, and we were telling the kids it's okay if it doesn't work out, it's okay, and having to internalize that ourselves and say if it doesn't work out, it is okay. But it was so out there because everyone was watching it. And knowing that if it didn't work out, we were going to come out there like, oh, because we're so used to things being private in our own classrooms. The doors kind of closed, and when something doesn't work out, it's like ha ha ha, and we move on. Right. But this was very public. Yeah. It was different. It was out in the community, and we had to put on our big girl pants every day and say, okay, we're taking risks, and it was healthy. It was good for the kids, and it was good for us. I felt like that was a positive thing. Mm-hmm. And terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, and everybody that watched was an expert at watching, because we've all watched TV since before we were old enough to walk, except me, but you guys did, and so everybody had at least probably some common expectations about what things should look like if they're on a TV. It should have a beginning. It should have an end. It shouldn't begin in the middle, and it shouldn't end before the ending. And so those were the kinds of things that you guys had to master throughout. I think there were some times where things ended prematurely or started late, or the kinds of things that you have to get over the hump in order to even get to the content of what it is that you want to do, those basic things. But I think you've got some great patterns established that you can build on for next year. Neil's asking, what was the old form of announcements in the past?
Okay.
The
intercom system. Good morning, young people. We would start and we would do all of the announcements. And the hard part about that, and I would have kids in the office, and we would do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would go through our morning routine. The hard part was when you're listening to the intercom, you do not have the gift of the visual cues. So the speaker on an intercom has to slow their pace down, drop their pitch down, so that they're not talking like this. But when they're really nervous, they talk like this, and it's very difficult when you don't have your eyes and ears working in unison to help you understand. So it was a major change for us, and it's been a good one. It's been a really good change.
It kind of got you off the hot seat
It did, didn't it?
a little bit.
It did, yeah. But getting back to the mistake thing, I think as a society we're so quick to judge those that make a mistake. So this is another one of those life lessons that I'm really, mistakes are going to happen. It's the only way we learn. So it's that too kind of gets that out in the forefront. And we did mess up, okay? We did, but it's okay. Let me tell you how we're going to fix it. And I think that's important.
Absolutely. Developing that resilience with the kids, that just because you have a problem on day 3, that doesn't mean that day 4 isn't going to go well. We're going to reflect on it and we're going to make a change. And, sometimes it just involved, it was something technical, and it was, it just wasn't plugged in quite right. And sometimes it was a change in a behavior or something. Maybe it was well, there's a lot of 12-year-olds in the room, and they just rumble about, and things get unplugged.
Pulled and cameras tilt.
That's what we were supposed to be preventing by the way we designed it. So we may have to go back and look at a couple
Nothing's
of those
12-year-old proof.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Oh, come on.
But they fixed it. They figured it out. We had, kids crawling around on the floor. They go, we're going to check the plugs. And there were times when I would just see, like, it can't be the plugs. It's not the plugs. And it was the plugs. I was thinking I had pushed the wrong button, or somebody had messed with the board or something. And no, it was as simple as it just came unplugged.
It generally is.
And I tell you, it taught a lot of us about listen to everybody's ideas and everyone's solutions, and it's truly, and this was a good thing for the kids, and a really good thing for us, because we were not the sage on the stage at all. We did not know everything or all the answers, and we were learning with the kids, and that was so nice. We truly were learning together.
And that's going to be a big difference this next year. And I think it has pluses, and I think it also may have some drawbacks.
Yeah. I'll have to be careful, I think, about stepping back and letting the kids really figure it out, because that's how I think you all had ownership, because you figured it out, and I think it was so valuable.
Well, and you didn't step in because you didn't know the answer.
No, I would sit there and go, why don't you just try and figure that
out? That's right. But there was really a beauty in that. And I know the kids have really appreciated that freedom to go in and find the answers. Otis is asking, in Texas, what about remotely bringing in a classroom into the broadcast? And we did talk about that. We didn't quite get there this past year. But my hope is that we can begin to explore. I'd like to have the principal come into the broadcast from her office using vMix calls, so that she can just pop in and, maybe a day of the week with an inspirational message of some kind.
I would like that.
Or a warning what not to do in the boys' bathroom.
I was about to say it'll be in the bathroom, surely.
Airing all of our dirty little
I'm sure that's the same across the country. Yeah. But Otis, I think that is on the horizon, and it's just like any other new skill set or new tool set. You come in with the basics, and you say, okay, I can put a nail into a piece of wood. Now I've got the hammer, I've got the wood, and I know how to do that. Now we're going to begin to build on that. And what happens at that school 5 years from now is going to look dramatically different. than what it looks like now. And my guess would be that, we said we're going to build one studio in the school because that's what we need. And suddenly Carol's going to say, well, actually, each grade needs its own studio and access to the studio as the entire class, not just a subset. So you just never know where this is going to go. Not so much that everybody needs to learn how to broadcast, although that's fun and interesting, but that the skills that can be acquired, the life skills that they're talking about, maybe this is one way where you can really get those life skills in. And if a third grader can realize, golly, I don't know this, but I have the confidence now to know that I can conquer any mountain that comes in front of me if I apply myself. Why wait until sixth grade to learn that lesson? And so you've got access to all sorts of ones in the future that you haven't had access in the past.
Yeah, and it really is, kids don't know who they are. They don't know what they're good at. So until you give these experiences to them,
Right.
they start figuring it out. Oh, I really am kind of good at technology. I'm not very good at reading, but I'm really good at technology. So this room becomes the great equalizer. Whatever your talents, your gifts, we'll use them. We'll plug them in. And I think that's important too. We tend to focus a lot on curriculum. Are you on the A honor roll? And sometimes that's not the most important thing, So.
Okay, we're getting some good comments in there, but looks like they're out of questions. Well, I sure do appreciate you guys taking so much time today to come in and be on the show and talk about. I mean, really, we're talking about education. We're not talking about live streaming at all. Live streaming is just a what would you call it?
I would say it was
a method.
It was a forum. It was a place for the kids to really grow and explore and figure out how to be good at different things, whether it was like organizational or whether it was leadership or whether it was their communication skills. I think it gave us an outlet that we could use to teach so many of those skills that are so important that you might not be able to really, develop in the regular classroom, because it would be a mock-up. Let's pretend to have a news feed. Let's pretend this or let's pretend that. But as soon as it's real,
it was real pressure.
Yeah.
It
was great.
Yeah, that was good. Well, thank you all so much. Folks, this is a special show today on Tuesday. Generally, our shows are on Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern. Been delighted to have folks from Fairhope Intermediate School and a future Fairhope Middle Schooler in the studio with us today. If you have questions about education and where broadcasting would be in education, Cassie, hit that Tom's third
okay.
button. There you go. Feel free to use the contact form at easternshorebroadcasting.com to send me a note. If you'd like to pass a note through to Carol or to Rose or to Cassidy even, send it to me. I'll screen it, make sure it's appropriate, and then pass it along to them, and they can respond. But I hope you kind of caught a little bit of the vision that Carol had and has passed on to us about the value of broadcasting in the educational environment. Thanks for tuning in, and we might have a brief post show in just a minute. But Cassidy, if you'll hit that button, that purple button marked outro, we will be gone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And press the side-by-side shot. Yeah, there we go. And so now we're in post-show, and
Okay,
press the
good.
pink button again,
The pink
top right. There
Yeah.
you go. Okay, there you go. And if there's a question that just popped into your mind at the very end, you can ask it now. But we're going to have a brief post show because I know we've taken way too much time. You guys have been very generous with your time today, and Cassidy carving out. I've got to go do this thing for my teacher and my school.
Such a good sport.
She was. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Indeed.
Thank you. We appreciate all your help and your time as well. and texts.
My pleasure, indeed. All right, Cassidy, there's a button on there called Cut Close.
Cut close.
Cut Close, and you can match that. Bye.